If you're not wetter than Niagara Falls or have a giant chode boner after watching this image, then you're most likely some sort of synthetic life form who is malfunctioning and needs to be reprogrammed. For decades now, casual Star Wars fans have criticized Jar Jar as being one of the worst characters in the Star Wars lore. Some small-brained reptilian individuals went as far as even bullying and even sending death threats to the original voice actor for Jar Jar Binks. As I mentioned, it was just small-brained casuals that weren't really big giant Star Wars fans. In my very humble opinion, I've always felt like Jar Jar really didn't get the respect that he deserves. He's a massively underrated character, and I wanted to kind of dissect a little bit of what his character means as a whole to the Star Wars universe. So let's get straight into it. Jar Jar Binks is originally from the planet Naboo. He belongs to the species known as Gungan. George Lucas has said in multiple interviews that he was placed in the film mostly to appeal to children, kind of be the comedic relief that the film actually needed. But let's be brutally honest, Jar Jar Binks, in my personal opinion, became the main character in episode number 1, which I've said is also easily the most underrated Star Wars film of all time. It definitely doesn't stand up there with, like New Hope or Revenge of the Sith or any of those, classic Star Wars films, but it definitely doesn't deserve to be at the bottom of the barrel. It not only gave us one of the more memorable main characters in Jar Jar Binks, but it also has one of the best soundtracks as well as one of the best lightsaber duels of all time in the Star Wars universe. That Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul battle is just an absolute classic. It was choreographed incredibly well, and the film basically encapsulates all of the cliches that Jar Jar Binks does as well. For some unknown reason, people just aren't able to fully embrace the film and just love it for what it is. And I'm not even going to get into the pod racing aspect of this film, which I think is another great feature. That pod racing sequence completely blew my mind when I was a young kid watching this growing up. Aside from all of that, Jar Jar Binks just being one of the most hilarious characters of all time. The dude just oozes charisma off of his weird elongated fingertips. There's also kind of an aura, or I would dare say a shroud of mystery revolving Jar Jar Binks and his place in the grand scheme of the Star Wars universe. There have been some rumblings that potentially he had a much bigger role in the future of the Star Wars universe. However, because his reception by the fans and the critics alike wasn't very good, and ultimately I think that made George Lucas definitely change his perception on the character. There are also some very strong theories out there that potentially Jar Jar Binks was set to become one of the more powerful Sith Lords. I know that sounds like a joke, but that is a very real possibility that George Lucas was working on. Not to mention another very plausible theory, and that is that Snoke potentially was like a clone of Jar Jar Binks as well, which again, not very far-fetched. It is something within the realm of possibility. Although let's be brutally honest, I don't think Supreme Leader Snoke had anywhere near the power level that Jar Jar did. Upon watching episode number 1 for about the 30th time, Jar Jar was just an absolute beast, wrecking battle droids left and right. The dude would literally sneeze or fart in the direction of a couple of battle droids and just completely obliterate them. Not to mention the scene where he uses a bunch of those blue explosive devices to basically take out a handful of tanks. There may be some ridiculous fools out there who might claim that he was just being clumsy, but none of that was clumsiness. That was perfectly calculated beast mode, and nobody could do anything to stop him, especially not some stupid battle droids. Let's also not forget he actually ends up receiving a seat on the Senate, and granted, he does inadvertently help Senator Palpatine take power, but then again, there are quite a few people that are fooled by Senator Palpatine, who eventually becomes Darth Sidious. And let's all be brutally honest with each other. If you're a Star Wars fan, you've at least at one point started a sentence with the word Misa. So in summary, the casuals can kick and scream all they want. I know some people out there that truly hate episode number 1 and really can't stand Jar Jar Binks, but I think if you're a purist, if you're a true fan of the Star Wars universe, and you just absolutely love what George Lucas did to build the foundation of the the Star Wars lore and the universe as a whole, then I think you will really learn to appreciate Jar Jar for what he really is. He was a great comedic character, which I think, as I mentioned, for hardcore fans, he continues to live in all of our hearts. But anyways, that is just my personal opinion. That is my personal take. Let me know in the comments section, what is your favorite Star Wars character, or what is your favorite character that just doesn't get enough love in the Star Wars universe? I'm very curious to see what other characters maybe get too much hate that is really undeserved. But let me know in the comments section. As always, hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.